Okay, so in this video, we are looking at your STAAR booklets. Number 1, point A is located at 2, 3. On a coordinate grid. Point B is located at -3 and -6. Which measurement is closest to the distance between point A and B in units? Okay, so I know I can't count this because it is a diagonal. I know it's not 4, that's too small, but it could be 13, 14, or 10. I know my Pythagorean theorem tells me a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And then I can form this into a right triangle with a side length of 5 and a side length of 9. So I know 9 squared plus 5 squared will give me the length of my hypotenuse, c squared. So 9 squared is 81, 5 squared is 25, and that'll give me c squared. So 106 equals c squared. Now we know this is not 106 units. So to undo the square, I'm going to do the square root of 106. And it's going to give me around 10. 10 will be my closest answer. Okay. 3 squares are joined to form a right triangle as shown in the diagram. Based on the diagram, which of the following statements is true? So if you remember Pythagorean theorem, the longest side represents my hypotenuse. And Pythagorean theorem says a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And what that means is that the area of my small square plus the area of my medium square will add to equal the area of my largest square. So literally, if you remember all the models we did, if I had water inside square F and G, and I poured it into square H, it would completely fill with no space left. So F plus G equals H here. So if I read my answer choices, the area of square H is equal to the sum of the areas of square F and square G. Number 3, Desiree is flying a kite and is holding the string 5 feet above the ground. She let out 117 feet of string and is standing 108 feet away from a point directly below the kite, as shown in the diagram below. What is H, the height of the kite from the ground? Okay, so if I look at the height of the kite, first I recognize that it's made up by one side of my right triangle plus 5 feet. So I'm going to need to add on 5 feet to my height once I find it. I know a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I know 117 will represent my c, so 117 squared, because that is my hypotenuse. 108 squared plus b squared will help me solve for that. So if I'm working backwards, I actually want to take 117 squared and subtract 108 squared. And this will give me b squared. Okay, so once I type 117 squared minus 108 squared in my calculator, I get 45. But remember, we need to add on 5 feet, which will give me 50. Remember when you bubble in to make sure that you place your values next to the decimal. And then I want to make sure I bubble in underneath, so 5 and 0. You don't have to bubble in a positive if it's positive, but you do have to bubble in a negative if it's negative. Okay, surface area and volume, number 1. A triangular prism and its dimensions are shown in the diagram. What is the lateral surface area of this triangular prism in square centimeters? So remember, our lateral surface area is looking for, if I drew my net, it's looking for this middle section, which is found by multiplying the perimeter of the base times the height. So I want to multiply the perimeter of my base times the height. Okay, so the perimeter of my base is 5 plus 5 plus 6, which is 16. And then I want to multiply by 8. 16 times 8 is 128. So my answer is C. Okay, number 2, a ball shaped like a sphere has a radius of 2.7 centimeters. Which measurement is closest to the volume of the ball in cubic centimeters? Okay, so my volume formula on my formula chart is 4/3 pi radius cubed. So I will, in my calculator, plug in 4/3 pi. My radius is 2.7 cubed. Okay, so I've done my calculations several times, and I've gotten 82. So I don't believe the answer is here. So it's around 82 centimeters cubed. Okay, for our holiday party, Rebecca purchased 3 cans of cranberry sauce. Each can was in the shape of a cylinder with a diameter of 10 centimeters and a height of 12 centimeters. Which measurement is closest to the volume of the cranberry sauce she purchased in cubic centimeters? Okay, so looking for volume, I know that my volume formula is area of the base times height. And for a cylinder, to find the area of my base, I do pi r squared. And then I'm going to multiply by height. So plugging into my formula, I'll have pi. My radius, my diameter is 10, so it'll be 5. And then I'm going to multiply by my height of 12. Okay, so I know 5 squared is 25. So 25 times 12 is 300. So pi times 300. Which is approximately 942.48. Okay, number 4, Raymond is building a box with a lid out of plywood. The box is shaped like a rectangular prism with a height of 1.75 feet, length of 3.5 feet, and a width of 3 feet. The plywood costs 53 cents per square foot at Lowe's. Approximately, what is the total cost of the plywood needed to create the box? Okay, so first I need to know the entire size of my box, and then I can calculate the price of my box. So it's shaped like a rectangular prism. So I know I want to use my formula of perimeter of the base times height plus 2 times the area of my base. Okay, so length and width is what I'm going to start with because that'll help me find my base. So my length and width is 3.5 and 3. So the perimeter of my base will be all of these sides added. So 3.5 plus 3.5 is 7. 7 plus 3 is 10. Plus 3 more is 13. So 13. And then the height is 1.75. So I'm doing 13 times 1.75. And that gets me 22.75. And now I need to add my area of my base. And so I want to do 2 times the area of my base. So the area of my base is 3 times 3.5, which gives me 10.5. And I have 2 of them, so 2 times 10.5 is 21. So I want to do 22.75 plus 21. And that gets me 43.75. And you might be tempted to circle that answer, but remember we want the cost of this. So 43.75 is my size, and I need to calculate the cost if it's 53 cents per square foot. So I'm going to multiply this by 53 cents. When I multiply it by 53 cents, I get 23.19. So my answer is C. Okay, look, moving on to slope and y-intercept. Look at the table below. Which of the following equations represents the data in the table? Okay, so first let's find our slope. So slope, remember, is change in y over change in x. So looking at my table, I can see that I am decreasing by 4 in my y, and I'm increasing by 2 in my x. So negative 4 divided by positive 2 will give me negative 2. So my slope is negative 2. So remember, y equals mx plus b. My slope is my m value. So I'm going to get rid of a, and then I'm going to get rid of d. My y-intercept is where x equals 0. So if I look at my table, I can see x equals 0 at negative 5. So C is my answer. Okay, number 2, which of the following graphs represents the equation y equals 2/3 x plus 4? Okay, so first, 2/3 is a positive number, so my slope is positive. So my line should be rising. And I look at my line from left to right to be sure it's rising. So A, if I look from left to right, it's going up, so it's rising. B, if I look from left to right, it's falling, so B cannot be my answer. C, if I look from left to right, it is falling. And D, if I look from left to right, it is rising. So it's either A or D. And I want a slope of 2/3, so I know that from one point to the next point, it should rise by 2, and the run should be 3. So it should go up 2, and over 3. 1, 2, 3. And this line doesn't seem to quite be steep enough. Or, I mean, it seems to be too steep. So if I look at D, I can see it goes up 2 and over 1, 2, 3. But let's check our y-intercept. So my y-intercept is positive 4. Well, A is a positive 4. and so is D. So that didn't help me out. So D has to be my answer because the slope is correct. Write the equation of the line that passes through point A in the origin. So here's point A and my origin. Now, if it passes through the origin, that means it has a y-intercept of 0. So D cannot be my answer because it has a y-intercept of 3. I also can see if I look from left to right, my line is rising. So my answer can't be C because this would be a falling line, a negative slope. So that leaves me with a slope of 1/3 and a slope of 1/2. So the question is it rising 1 and running 3 or rising 1 and running 2? Okay, so I'm going to find my rise and run between A and my origin. So it goes up 1, 2, 3. So that's my rise. And it goes over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 3 over 6. And 3 over 6 simplifies to 1/2. So B is my answer. Number 4, which of the following tables has a slope of 8 and a y-intercept of -2? Okay, so let's start with my slope of 8. So if I look at my first table here, I can see that my y value decreases by 8 and my x value is increasing by 1. So this would be a slope of -8/1 or -8. So A cannot be my answer. B, I can see is decreasing by 8 and increasing by 1. So again, I have a slope of -8/1, which is -8. So B cannot be my answer. Okay, from -10 to +6 is increasing by 8. I'm sorry, is increasing by 16. And my x value is increasing by 2. So 16/2 does give me 8. So C is a possibility. And you can see D is the same. So, or I'm sorry, from -6 to 10 is +16. -1 to 1 is +2. So 16/2 again gives me 8. So it's either C or D. So I need to know what my y-intercept is from both. So remember, if my slope is 8, I have y equals 8x. So 8 times my x value, 8 times, let's use the number 1. 8 times 1 is 8, but I need to get to 6. So 8 times 1, but I need to get to 6, so I need to subtract 2. That would make my y-intercept -2. If I look at my D, 8 times 1, but I want to get to 10, I would need to add 2. That would make my y-intercept +2. So C is my answer. What is the slope and y-intercept of the following graph? So let's start with my y-intercept. My y-intercept is +2. So not A and not D. And my slope is my rise over my run. So I can see that if I connect 2 points, that it's falling by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, -6, and the run is 2, which gives me -6/2, which is -3. So C is my answer.